All right, and welcome back to Casey Needs a Co-host Conflict Edition. This is our first podcast, and today with me as my co-hosts, I have Sherry and DAKOTA, the creators of Conflict. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Casey's gonna need a drink after having to deal with us this season. Trust me on that.
It's already been kind of a hectic season, and I mean, just to let everyone out there know, I'm on production. I got really busy with my internship and work and other things, so I got really far behind, and I'm kind of catching up. So Sherry and DAKOTA will actually be doing kind of a little bit of everything, and I'll be just chiming in on what I know and giving my take on things. So just also give the audience context if everyone's watching this at a later point. This is the point in the game where they just merged last night. We have a live challenge tonight. It's live night, live challenge, and then immediately tribal. And things are already stirring up. So actually right before this, I was just informed by Sherry that, correct me if I'm wrong, Sherry, but Rory sort of caught wind of what was going to probably happen tonight, but you guys are shifting gears. Do you want to talk about that before we get into everything else?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rory, he is a player in the game, doing a really great job of playing the game socially, definitely. He's got his hooks into everybody's ears, I guess, as you would say, but he watched it last season. So traditionally with our first season, we did a challenge where we used 2 hard-boiled eggs and 1 raw. And it was the touchy subjects where everybody fills out the form and then, they go around answering the questions. So he was like, boom, I know what they're going to do. They're going to do touchy subjects. So he was going around to all his alliance people saying, hey, they're going to do touchy subjects. Make sure you put all the bad ones on Staten and all the good ones will just use Jeremy, for instance, so he doesn't know that we're secretly targeting him. And so we caught wind. We caught it in a conversation. So now we've switched up to the trivia pursuit. So when they answer correctly, they'll be able to chop somebody or egg somebody. And if they answer incorrectly, they'll just be sitting there waiting. These people are tricky.
I like that. I like it. I like that he did his homework, and I love that he kind of had a plan to push everything on Staten, which, as I think I know, he was the original target last round, but some personal stuff happened
Yes,
with
with
someone, and
Melissa. Yeah,
yeah.
Melissa's mother sadly has been ill, and her diagnosis, the prognosis, everything started to kick into high gear, and she's had to drop out of all of her games to deal with real life things going on right now. So we do wish her the best.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting that even after all this, the target has shifted to him. Before we really get into all the merge stuff, let's actually talk about the first phase of the game, or first 3 phases of the game, if you will. So we actually, or 4, I guess, technically, because we had one world, tribes, one world, tribes. So what did you guys make of, we'll just talk about the very first phase, the one world. How did you feel about this, especially compared to last season? This is now your second season. So how did it feel?
Okay, so we did the normal, we dropped it at midnight because we always say, okay, the game's gonna start on the 1st. And we literally drop it at midnight on the 1st. So in season 1, we really expected nobody to even notice, but damn, those people were on it quick. Like season 1, I ended up staying up all night because the conversations were constant, the alliances were being made, the chats were going on. It was phenomenal. This season, it was basically, hey, how are you? I'm going to bed. So it wasn't quite as like, I was like, oh, it was more of a disappointment than anything else. But I think with the one world scenario that we offer each round, each season, it is to reduce cheating, because we all know who everybody plays online reality games, that everybody kind of knows each other at some point or another. You would run across each other. So instead of them going behind our backs to talk to each other when they shouldn't be, just make it a one world, and you guys can, but you're still, just because you're stranded on the same island in the same spot, you're still 2 different tribes. So this season it's been playing out not as dramatically as last season. This season we're starting out, I think the players are being a lot more loyal to each other. Nobody's really going in to make big moves yet. They're all playing what I would call a safe game. Would you agree?
I agree. I agree. I mean, there, of course, in conflict, there's a lot of pre-existing, as Sherry stated, pre-existing relationships that everyone seems to have to manage. And with there being so many kind of Facebook, I guess, based orders that decided to give this org a try, we're seeing a lot of that. And we saw a lot of that at the very beginning. So it was more, as Sherry said, a safe and a comfortable kind of game, I feel, for a good amount of people that knew they had good connections. Not that they were going to, so much work for them later on down the road, but they knew that if they needed them, that they were there.
So far it's boring, but I think that's about to end because they're getting to the point where they're going to have to start turning on each other.
So, yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of stuff about that because I've also heard about alternate targets for this coming round, but let's dip into the little bit of the boring stuff and then we'll move into the exciting stuff just to kind of cover our bases. So what did you guys think of the next couple phases, them going into the tribe and then even the one world twist where they're coming back together? Anything exciting from that? Anything you guys pulled from that?
We see there's connections, whether people are aware or not. We have Jeremy and Nick, who are a real life couple. And I think 2 people in the game actually know this, but haven't told anybody. So it's fun watching Jeremy and Nick manipulate 2 different sides because we made sure we put them on opposite tribes. So when we came into one world, those 2 worked together to actually try to control the vote, which I'd say they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
With our twists, though, we do have each round somebody can bid on immunity, and if you win it, you can. It has to be played that night and only for yourself, and you can't play it any other time during the game. You get one and one only shot at immunity, and we have seen a lot of people are using fake names to try to get people to push them into buying immunity, so that when they're really ready to take this person out, they no longer have anything to fall back on.
See, and with that, actually going back to the original phase, we saw what happened with Val, who, I mean, in the very, very beginning, I was up and up on everything. And the whole thing with Val just completely astonished me. The fact that she did not watch the video after it, you guys clearly stated, this is
Watch
very
the
important.
video.
She didn't watch it. She fully admitted it. So I guess I appreciate her honesty. She was no help in the challenge. And then she threw all of her currency, which the currency in this game, for anyone who doesn't know, is stars. She threw all of her currency into buying that immunity, which once again, she didn't listen to the video. And when you buy it, it's for you, only for you. And it gets announced like, I mean, I'm not surprised she didn't make it far. I've got nothing against her because I don't know her, but that was just baffling to me.
That was kind of a giggle moment for us because I was like, what is she doing? They're
Yeah.
even going after the one who's completely inactive. Nobody's even said her name.
And I honestly think that at that point, because it was Andromeda, of course, that attended that first tribal council where Missy went home. But I think the members that were on Andromeda, if they didn't understand how it worked, Val was a good example, and we haven't had to worry so much about it because it set the tone. I mean, it only takes one person to do or slip up like that for people to understand, hey, maybe we should have done that and maybe we won't avoid doing it again,
Yeah. It's just baffling when I see stuff like that. And I also want to comment a little bit on Missy. I actually played a game with her before, in which, to my knowledge, in the game, she kind of really did nothing, and she was brought along pretty far, but then they did end up voting her out. Outside of the game, in our group chat, she was a very, very nice person, but I'm also curious because I don't know. She was completely inactive, and then she did get voted out, and I still haven't heard anything from her since. Do you guys have any comment on that?
No, I think DAKOTA had to go into her Facebook just to get because another twist we threw in, which is supposed to be they go with the theme of our actual series of conflict. Last season, when you left, you had a choice of putting a revenge vote on somebody or a saving vote to delete one of their votes. This season, we put as you leave, you get the option of, and we even allow you to split up if you have a lot of currency, leave it to a player in the game. And we actually, it was like pulling teeth from her to even get that information from her. Who do you want to leave your stars to? So yeah, Missy has been completely, even as she left the game, inactive, which was a shame because she was somebody that Dakota was real excited about playing.
And in her message to me, she did say that she had worked that day and she forgot to set an alarm. But that is the thing about conflict, I guess, that we cherish the most, is that, you know, it's intense. You never know when and where you're going to get thrown into a situation that you're going to need to be around. And I mean, to be fair, the warnings were there. They were all notified, you know, the first night will make or break your game. So in that regard, it's, you know, she did say in her boot post that she understood being voted out. But as the same kind of thing with Val, people, I think, kind of took to that idea, like, we made the commitment, we're here, we're going to play, because, you know, the moment I step away could be the moment we go to tribal council or we go back into tribes. Connections are being made, I'm left out, and I'm going home next round. So
Yeah. Aside from Missy, we have Kendall and Johnny who are also voted out. Because we already covered the other three. I actually have like no information on Johnny, if I'm being completely honest. Kendall, if I remember correctly, Kendall seemed to have a lot of beef with other people, if I remember the conversations correctly. And nothing against her because I don't know her. I'm just going off based off what I read, but she seemed like a very negative person. Not someone that I think I'd ever really want to work with, if I'm being honest.
I was really surprised by that too, because as a person, I really adored her in her interview. She's very enthusiastic, but she did come in rubbing people the wrong way with a lot of negativity, and she'd fall back, I guess, on her religious scriptures to prove a point, which didn't really sit well with the cast itself. I think she was completely blindsided the night she left. I'm about 100% sure on that one.
yeah,
She didn't even show up for tribal that night. She was so sure of the vote.
The thing about Kendall is, as she's a great person, she's a very bubbly, energetic, outgoing individual. But in this game, as soon as we drop them into one world, rather than pinpoint the people that she had connections with that were good, it seemed she wanted to focus more on those that were either kind of or bad. And ultimately, you know, sharing your vendetta with everyone, not everyone plays like that. And some players are very turned off by that. And I think that was the case of what happened. As Sherry said, she was away. It was the Saturday before the 4th. And that's, again, what happened. She took a step away, and little did she know, she went home in a blindside. And it was a pretty secure blindside, because that round Jodie found out that they were the target and they bought immunity. So that's the thing about Kendall. It's I think more figuring out the social game for her more than it is anything.
Because that's another one Jodie's name, they were mentioned, and Jodie did get a few votes, but ultimately it was just another push to get somebody to buy immunity that didn't need it.
Now, what about Johnny? Because like I said, I have no information on that boot at all.
So Johnny, so the thing that a lot of the players, because there are some hybrid players, there are some players that are playing this season that really only focus on Skype games. And then there are people who also play Facebook and Skype games. And as mentioned before, Rory is one of those people. Johnny, this is his first Skype game. He plays a lot on Facebook, but also Heather Wakefield. She's a big Facebook player. She rarely ever plays on Skype. But those three, including myself, we played an All-Stars game a couple of months ago. And immediately, Rory identified those connections. So when it came to the One World round, it was kind of clear to OG Andromeda that an OG triangulum had to go to even out the number. And Johnny, unfortunately, it wasn't because Johnny did anything, but it was because he was viewed as being a pawn or a puppet or just a henchman of Heather Wakefield. And he unfortunately bit the bullet because of his connection with Heather. It was a move to weaken Heather.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they said. It was just taking another, I guess ultimately they're moving in on Heather. Heather Wakefield, I have played a game with her, and she is somebody, if you ever played a game with her, you would understand what I'm about to say. She is hardcore. You will think you're her best friend in this game as she is writing your name down. But she is loyal to people, but she picks and chooses which people and when. She sends us her list, and it changes. It varies. Like 1 week it'll be, oh, I am so loyal to this person, this person, this person. Then the next week we get another list saying, well, now it's this person, this person, this person. So she is very adaptable in this game. So what I see happening is there's people in this game aware of her presence, know that she's a queen of this game, and they know they can't target her directly yet, but they're going to indirectly pull from anybody that's going to help protect her or save her.
And with that, I mean, the number one thing that I noticed was that she's clearly a very social player. I've seen the lists. I immediately could see the flirting with Gage. And like Gage has been in her top 3, I think. Every time. Yeah. Never towards the top.
Number 1.
Never yet.
Number 2.
Number 2 or 3. I think I've seen at least once with 3. But that's kind of funny. I assume she was a very, very big social player, which, I mean, you know, anyone who knows these games know that the social element is the most important element. Obviously, there's many elements, but the social element is the most important element. But with that, I want to kind of transition into the merge, because I also found out right before this start of this podcast that I guess one of Heather's 3 might also be a possible target, being Gage, and I forget who was the other possible target, because we obviously think Jeremy and Staten was the assumed primary target, but with these other targets. But I mean, you guys should be able to speak to that a little bit better.
Okay, so tonight, and the thing that I don't think anybody really understands, we have an auction of powers. You can't find them this season. You just got to bid on them. And the auction is a silent auction, so nobody knows who's bidding and who wins. They just know if they've been outbidded. So tonight we offered up what we thought was a really good opportunity, is the one without power. You basically, if you bid on this and win this item tonight, you will have immunity at tribal, but you won't be allowed to attend tribal. So get the night off. You won't be able to participate. You won't be able to put a vote on anybody. You will have no power, but at the same time, you're safe. And nobody has bid on it other than Staten. So they're trying to push poor little Mr. Staten into buying his immunity. But these people, they keep thinking, I guess we're going to throw it for auction. I've heard an idol or super idol, and they've only got like a few more rounds and the auction closes, and we're not auctioning any idols. So it's going to be funny for the ones like Heather and Rory, who are stockpiling stars, not using them. No. And then they're going to be, well, at least they'll have a lot when it comes time for them to pull immunity. But yeah, so they're not paying attention to these auction items, because Melissa, on her way out before she left, before tribal, she transferred her steal a vote to Staten, and she transferred her stars. And I don't think a lot of people realize that the stars are being transferred. People aren't speaking of it. And so the ones who haven't had any stars apparently don't know. So they're not even taking that into account. They're assuming Staten's broke, used all his money, and if they did want to go after him, they could tonight. But they're actually incorrect. He's the only one that's bid on the auction item tonight.
And he threw everything he had at it. So he had 4 before Melissa left. Melissa had 5. He has 9 now. And he's actually, that places him, I think, around 3rd in the placement of how many people have stars, because Rory currently has 11 and Heather has 17. So Staten was up there in amount, and he threw it all at it. So the likelihood of, I mean, of course, anything can happen up until that point, but the likelihood of someone finding out that his bid is 9 and getting in 10 before the auction closes is not likely. But as Sherry's mentioned, it's just changing. Like it's really changing the vote. Like I'm sure currently right now, as we speak, it's changing. So the question is Staten going to buy this item and use it correctly? My gut says right now, no, that he's going to get it and he's going to play it tonight. And they're going to think, okay, let's get him next week.
Yeah, because now he won't have any money to bid on immunity, and this time he really won't have money. Because what he didn't realize, he could have just bid 2 stars and been good. To go all in was a bit much and it was unnecessary. But Heather, if she hears Gage's name, I don't think she's gonna let Gage go. She'll flip it back to Jeremy or back to Staten. I think a lot of names are gonna float. They all know it's coming, and we're at 8:22 right now. And I've heard the names I never hear are Marcelina. I never hear Rory's name, and I never hear Heather's. Marcelino, for the first time, mentioned Heather the other day when they took out Johnny, which leads me to believe that in the back of his mind, at some point, we're going to see a face-off between Heather and him, because they're the 2 main controlling figures on each of their sides, and they're going to push that face-off, and one of them's going to go and one of them's going to stay, and that could be the end game.
And I think what's really interesting is that you do have still these powerful characters like Rory and Jeremy and Cindy. Even, you know, she's a good strategic player. And you've got Justin, even though he's not been the most active, he's causing chaos.
Left and right.
And he did it. He causes chaos that he's not even at tribal. And you have to speak to that in some way. So you have all of these surrounding players who are kind of just trying to figure out what works best for them. You've got Rory, who's adamantly, I don't want this to be a tribe v tribe thing. But then you have Cindy, Marcelino, Justin in the OG Andromeda Alliance chat pushing that exact narrative. And you've got Rory trying to at least give some olive branch to Heather or Jeremy. And I just don't think it's going to work. So it's just, with all these names flying, like I said,
I'm curious to see where it's going to land tonight.
There's still a lot of time, and there's still the challenge coming up, so we have no clue what's going to happen.
No, we don't. And I know they're going to wait to see who wins immunity, but to be the final guess. But you got Jeremy and Nick, who are actually in a relationship, and if Nick, and a lot of people aren't aware of this in the game, and if Nick hears Jeremy's name, of course he's going to go and do everything to protect Jeremy. So that's going to be interesting. And if Heather hears Gage's name, she's going to try to flip it off him. So at this point, it could flip to anybody, because I could see these middle people who aren't as strong as competitors, who aren't as adaptable. I could see them ending up getting hurt and cut, just because that's just the way the big players send it, which is going to make for an interesting, once it gets to a certain point in this game, it's going to get really interesting really quick, because that is the cool part. They're taking out, the stronger players are actually staying, and they're taking out what we normally would consider pawns or somebody who's being dragged to the end. And there isn't a whole lot of pawns in this game, but they've been wiped out quick. I would definitely say that.
And I think one important thing to note, though, too, with especially Jeremy and Nick's relationship is, I don't want to necessarily say that is the defining reason as to why Jeremy's made some of the decisions that he has. But referring back to the Johnny boot, Jeremy and Jodalee were the 2 that flipped outside of what was expected. So they ensured that Johnny went home, and it shocked the hell out of Triangulum. Staten actually purchased the time machine in the auction, which he bought round 1 and thought, well, this isn't going to do me any good. It did him good, because he played it, found out that Jeremy and Jodalee flipped, and now he's kind of just sitting on that information. He's told a couple of people, but it's all about what he can do to use that information. But you have to think, Andromeda was who was pushing at that time Johnny to go, and Nick, his partner, was on OG Andromeda. So is that relationship going to come into question when it comes to how Jeremy strategically plays this game? Is he kind of trying to play that middle line because of that? It's an evolutionary thing, I think, that we're going to see happen when it comes to Jeremy and some of the other players.
I would agree, because I keep waiting for Jodalee to drop, because Jodalee's been denying, no, I didn't vote Johnny, and adamantly denying, and I can't believe Staten's throwing my name out saying I did. So I keep waiting for Staten to drop the bomb. I bought that power back in the beginning of the game. I know 100% fact you did. So I'm waiting, but Staten at Tribal tends to be emotional. He cried last night. So I don't know if he has the backbone to stand up in Tribal and be like, look, motherfuckers, I know
That
what's going on.
that
I
could
would
be
have done
the
that.
I mean, that could be the exact thing. He's at this heightened state of emotion and he can't control himself and he just spills it all on,
Oh,
the
it would be
table.
awesome.
I mean, if there's going to be a crazy tribal, like the merge tribal is the exact, time to do so. So let's hope that we see it tonight. Um, Also kind of shifting gears here because it's about 8:30 now and we got about an hour till live night. And I know we got some stuff to do beforehand. We haven't really talked too much about, Jackson. We talked a little bit about Gage, but more so Gage's involvement with Heather. So if you guys want to just hit on them a little bit real quick.
And Jackson's playing a strong game. He is trying to keep his options definitely open. Whenever somebody approaches him, he doesn't run to everybody. He listens to what they have to say, and it's almost like he's digesting it, and he doesn't throw them under the bus. So he's playing definitely a safe game. He's sticking with his alliance for the time being. But as he opens up a little further, you can see that Jackson's going to be the type too. I could almost see him turning it into a numbers game.
Jackson is unique because I played Pro Survivor with him, and we are seeing a completely kind of opposite of what I heard Jackson was as a player in that game. And I think in part has a lot to do with Nicholas, because Nicholas was also in that game, and Nicholas and Jackson found an idol together. And as Jackson was voted out in his goodbye speech, decided to let everyone know that Nicholas had the idol. So that was a discussion that they had at the very beginning of the season. I think Jackson understood the position it put him in because they both wanted to start fresh, but I'm sure Nicholas has always got it in the back of his mind. But Jackson's playing a little bit differently this game. And I think it's in part because he's got two sides because he's building relationships. He has pre-connections with Rory and Justin. I'm not sure if they're all so close, but they do well know each other. But then on the other hand, he's building connections with people like Heather and Nicholas and Marcelino. And we'll just see how.
Yeah, it's almost like he's preparing to go whichever direction he needs to go to ensure his next round he's still here. That's what I mean by numbers. I think at some point in this game, he's going to be willing to just say, fuck the first half. I'm tired of you guys. I'm going to go over here for a little bit, and then I might come back and see you guys in a bit. I can just see him kind of becoming a flip-flopper here.
And speaking of which, I just remembered Flipper Brown, Aaron is
can't make up his mind day to day where he's going.
Aaron is also one of those intriguing individuals because he gives us a lot. He talks to a lot of people, mind you, and that could help him or hurt him. But it's really hard to see where he's at.
Yes.
And I'm starting to see why they call him Flipper Brown, not just because, he flip-flops, but because you don't know where the hell he's at. So
he would, if I had my whiteboard and I was playing this game, I would have a huge question mark by him. Because you don't know where he stands in this game. I don't even think he knows.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Does he even know? I mean, that's the perfect reason to get someone like him out of the game,
Because you don't know where he's going to vote. And that's danger to you and your alliance if that's what you're sticking with.
Yeah. I can, nothing against those types of people, but I can't stand that those not exactly flippers, because true flippers, at one point they're going to go to one side or the other, but they're like a wild card. You have no clue what they're going to do. You can't fit them into a formula or predict anything with them. It messes up so much stuff. So just get those types of people out. I was going to also bring up him just to see what you guys thought, but I like that just kind of came up organically. What about, so I think the last two people I want to tackle on, and then we'll kind of just close things here, is just Nicholas, and like I said, I want to go back to Gage, maybe a little bit of Cindy too. We didn't get too much into Cindy.
Okay, well, Cindy I came across. I've never played a game with her. I don't think you have either. Sorry, we're in the same room. So as that happens, I'll look over at him. He's sitting right beside me. But in reality, Cindy, she works in a law firm. She's very logically a thinker. She's a logic thinker. She she is emotional when she's passionate. When she was irritated about a challenge, she let us know and she let us have it. She is really smart, but she isn't easily fooled either. She's not naive. I think she's playing, a lot of them I feel like this are doing this though. I think she's playing with the safe numbers to get her to a point where she needs to get, because she's going to Europe. She's going to be on a flight. She actually isn't going to miss much at all. I think she's pre-recording a part of a challenge and that's it. That's all she'll miss. But she's also concerned she's going to be busy during a wedding, blah, blah, blah. So she's just right now trying to make sure she's got her people so that she can be on this trip, still play the game, but still, not be as active as maybe she's been the first part of the game, which will ultimately, I think, still be her downfall.
Yeah, definitely. She's right now, like in the last couple of hours before we did this, she's definitely involved in the conversations with Marcelino, Rory, Jackson, and Justin as to what the potential plan for the vote would be. She's trying to get in that group and make sure that that group kind of comes out with the majority after tonight's tribal because of that. So, but nonetheless, as Sherry stated, I don't underestimate her. I believe that even though she'll be traveling, she'll still have her foot in the door and she'll be able to make the most of what she's given. I think I see that strategically in her. So
I think she's a good player. I just don't know if she's going to be able to survive her trip.
Also,
I think that's going to be a key pivotal point in the game where things are starting to really, where you've got to turn on each other.
Also, right now, just because I have my multiple monitors set up and shit like that, I've got all of my notifications just constantly coming across the screen. And right now, some of the most frequent conversations are Jodelie's conversations and Gage's, which I didn't even get a chance to fully read the quick note, but I think Gage just threw someone's name out there and then apologized that he didn't mean to throw someone's name out there.
Oh.
But so many notifications are coming across my screen, I can't read them all. So someone might have to find that. But yeah. Well, I guess we'll just take a moment right now.
I'll be totally honest. My favorite today has been Rory. He doesn't really care who goes home tonight as long as it's not him. He has been throwing, he gets on calls with people and he'll throw Gage's name. He'll say Staten's name, but maybe we should do Justin. And Rory is, and then he goes in his confessionals like, I'm just throwing everybody's name out there to see how many, you can't be in this. Say hi to Jabbar in case he watches. Jabbar loves my dog. But yeah, so if I feel like at this point in the game, somebody like him, Rory, is becoming very dangerous. And I don't know if it'll catch up to him, but he's actually telling people, hey, let's vote this person. Okay. And then he'll go to his alliance and be like, let's vote somebody else.
Okay, I misread it. Gage was asking Justin that Justin didn't mean to throw someone's name out there.
Oh, Staten. He did that in the public chat today.
And I was on the call listening as they did it, and it was intentional. Justin was legitimately laughing about it and being he's being Justin, I guess.
Yeah.
And he was just posting, he made himself a meme, which I also got onto a call with Nicholas and Rory, and Nicholas hated that and said, maybe we should vote Justin tonight. He made himself a meme and I'm not digging that. And now I just read Justin is barking up Heather's tree because Justin believes that Heather is going to team up with Staten to take Justin down. So there you have it. It's who knows whose name's going to be thrown out. Justin is bold enough to throw out Heather's name this round. Will it stick? I don't know, but
Marcelino would be the one. If he heard Heather's name, would probably sit and think for a second, is it going to endanger my game to go after it? Because he's very calculated. Marcelino, I may not always, I get so nervous at trial that I'm going to say his name wrong. I do it every fucking time. And then you get me on something like this, I say his name perfect. I just don't get, it's mental with me.
I've heard you say multiple people's names wrong, so there is that. But I guess we're just going to actually wind things down. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we conclude for today?
Yeah, so right now I think the end game's either going to be Marcelino or Heather.
It's really hard. I mean, I still have some belief in me that Jeremy will be in the end game if he's able to navigate the way that he's navigating. But he's got to be careful because if he doesn't take care of Staten, that could very well blow up everything and ruin the trust. But then you have Rory, then you have Heather, then you have, it's just, I'm excited to see how it plays out because it's going to be like World War III in conflict.
I'd say starting around, and that's when we're going to really redo touchy subjects, and it'll probably even be better than we're going to do it round 8 now, since we did a quick flip flop to throw their game off tonight. Because I'd really like to see how that's going to turn out as far as answers, because then there's going to be, but I think that's when the war is going to begin. I'm guessing between 8 and 7, you're going to see the big throwdowns, and each round's going to be like that until the end of the game. So stay tuned, guys. It's about to get really fun.
And even tonight, even though it's not touchy subjects, there's still going to be chopping people. So
Egging people.
Egging people. Yep. And even better, you know, who cares about the proverbial rope? You're literally having to smash an egg into your head. So at the request of someone else, nonetheless. So it's going to be an interesting challenge and an interesting live night. So
no players were hurt in this challenge to our knowledge yet.
they hit it. We don't tell them how hard to hit it. They do that themselves. But
I mean, I just say, like, you'd be surprised how hard it is actually to crack an egg on your head. I thought it was going to be really easy, and it wasn't. It's actually, like, I don't know. It's very weird. It's almost disorienting. Like, but yeah. Anyway, I guess on that note, thank you guys for coming on. We're gonna have another one probably around the final 5. But yes, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you everyone who tuned in. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next roundtable. See ya.
Bye, guys.